Antoinette James, reporter in Hewakaputanga jurisdiction. Welcome to Behind the Beehive, where I look behind the corporation jurisdiction's political show and try and reveal the truth. And the truth today is that this rainbow phenomena, I mean, can't they be creative? Why do they have to, the woke, why do they always steal things from the Bible? Why do they always try and be really edgy and revamp them? Now, I realize, I do understand why, because the philosophical seat of the West is Protestant Christianity, and you've got to destroy that if you're ever going to bring in a one world religion, which is what the United Nations are bent on doing. They say it's going to bring in world peace, and they, are talking about world governance, but no, what they're bringing in is a one world religion. So I do understand that they've got to destroy everything Christian and everything biblical. So with a lot of people growing up today not understanding the Bible, I guess when they see rainbow, they just think of the alphabet community, still, animal crackers in my soup, Shirley Temple kind of level stuff. So I understand that, but it does amuse me that they cannot be more creative and the way that they promote themselves and the way that they behave. But anyway, we've just had Rainbow Week. I have just been talking to a friend who was talking to a school teacher in Pukekoi, and they just did their Rainbow Week there. And she was rather appalled because heterosexual chaps, boys at the school started kissing each other, groping each other under the table, just really embracing this whole rainbow week that they were allowed to indulge in. And of course, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's just to spark any latent homosexual or diverse sexual perversenesses that are rampant in young people. Now we've got Hollywood and media and a lot of the curriculum at school, and of course the old sex education that's been handled by the gay lobby group in New Zealand with the AIDS Foundation. Our children are primed, and the rest is history. It's all over, people. It's all over. We need to pull our children out of school and start getting some restoration back into our culture, because it's all over otherwise. I just want to start now just reading an article that's done the rounds over this last couple of weeks. And this, I'm reading this from the Breitbart, published it, but it was written by Amy Furr. And this is an article about the marches in America. But this has got some very significant information for us as a springboard for what I'm wanting to inform you, the truth I'm bringing you today, that this whole rainbow fiasco it comes after the rain. Yes, rainbows are there once the rain starts. And the rain is that this is all top-down choreographed and has been managed and manipulated for some decades to bring our classrooms across the West to the situation, the groping situation that they found themselves in this last week. Now, I'll read the article, or at least part of it. We're coming for your children. New York City drag marchers chant ominous message at Pride event. And what they were chanting was, we're here, we're queer, and we're coming for your children. Having told us for the last 15 years that they had nothing to do with children and they weren't coming for our children, they just wanted to get married. I'll read the article. LGBT activists at the annual drag march on Friday in New York City shouted a troubling message regarding the children across the nation. As Pride Month comes to a close, the participants marched through Tompkins Square Park in the East Village while chanting, and I've told you what they've chanted. Video footage shows a flamboyantly dressed crowd, they always are, moving through the arena, and a woman among the group appearing to be topless. We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children, some of those in the crowd shouted. Another video shows marchers with a banner that reads Drag March. as the crowd filled the street. The march came to an end at the Stonewall Inn. Remember that word, Stonewall. This is what today's talk is about. The march came to an end at Stonewall Inn, located in Greenwich Village, whose website says it is where Pride began. And I'm going to say, yes, that's exactly right. But this Stonewall Inn, this gay inn there in Greenwich Village there in New York, that is not where Pride began. Stonewall Inn, it harks back to a different Stonewall that I'm going to be talking about today. So to have an inn called Stonewall is not just a pretty little or a nice little name or a convenient little name that someone chose for this gay inn. The person that chose the name of that inn knew exactly its ancient mystery religion, its satanic, its Luciferian roots. It began 2,000 years BC. That's when Stonewall began. And whoever put this website together, whoever it is, not the useful idiots that run the joint, no, whoever's behind that, and when they set that inn up, they knew that that inn was going to be used in the future for a very significant sexual revolution in the 1960s, as it all turns out. It was set up. Now we know the elite, the Jesuits that operate the elite working groups have a 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, 500, even 1,000 year perspective on the agenda that they're rolling out. This agenda has been going for 500 years now. It started with the Jesuit order in the 1500s as a counter-reformation to Protestant Christianity. They had to get everyone back to esoteric Roman Catholicism, which is Mithraism, which is ancient mystery religion, which is Satanism, Luciferianism, with all their gods and their sexual debauchery that goes with the gods, and then the sexual, very explicit religion. Ancient mystery religion is just wound up. Its core, its outer, every which way of ancient mystery religion is to do with sexual deviancies of all different types. That's one of the reasons why Henry VIII does his disillusionment of the monasteries throughout Britain, because of the debauched nature was happening in these monasteries amongst the monks, Roman Catholic monks and nuns. People wouldn't even speak about it. It was so appalling. So don't think, that Henry VIII, he took down some beautiful architecture. He took down debauchery as he moved away from the Roman Catholic system with its esoteric ancient mystery religion core. So, okay, so let's just pause for a minute and just have a look at this Greenwich Village Stonewall Inn, where Pride began. It was riots. Now, it was known that the police back in the 1960s and 50s and 60s would often raid these homosexual inns, because back then it was a criminal offence. So, I'm not going into the rights and wrongs of all that. I'm not going into what people want to do in the privacy of their own home, their own choices. That is up to them, totally up to them. Stonewall Inn. Now, it was on New York in June the 28th. So we've just had that during Pride Week, or at least during Rainbow Week in New Zealand. We've just had that, the 28th of June. And it was the 28th of June, 1969, that the police did raid the gay bar of Stonewall Inn, and they forcibly removed everyone, and everyone just hit the streets and emptied out. But it was a little bit different this time. These raids were usual, and people emptied out, they went home. Some of them might have spent the night in jail, but then life went on. But this time it was the beginning of a riot that lasted for 6 days. Now, riots are a little bit like revolutions. They don't start with we the people. They aren't a ground up phenomena. They are top down phenomena, because you need someone to organize it. You need a core group to keep it moving. You need a core group to bring in others to give it momentum. So I would like to suggest today that this riot that lasted for 6 days was well organized, choreographed, and planned, and kept the momentum going for that number of days to make the point. If it was just a riot for a few hours, it might have just been blown over, but they had to really disturb that whole area in Greenwich Village to make their point. This 28th of June 1969 has gone down in history as the event that sparked the gay rights movement. And the gay rights movement also hijacked or piggybacked the civil rights movement that we know of, Martin Luther King Jr., I believe. So it all fits and stacks on top of each other. The elite know they have to get A, B, C, D in place before they can build. The foundations need to be there before they can build their system, their tower, their house, their monument, their new culture. So we're seeing a Hegelian dialectic here. And maybe quite a few homosexuals and transvestites and people in that community were having to live on the fringe of society. But what we needed is a major swing the other way to really break things apart. So we have the thesis, and we bring it right over here for the 6-day riot. That is the antithesis, and we bring it to the middle part, which is the day we live in right now, all done and dusted. The rest is history. The synthesis. 6 days of riot. Where did people sleep? Who housed them? Who fed them? Who looked after the injured, if there were any? There's a lot happening there. You hear riot and you think, oh, it was a riot. No, riots are well organized. So what did the riots, what was the outcome? Because surely, we want that synthesis of what we are seeing today, young boys in our schools groping each other under the desks. So what were the outcomes? So the American Psychiatric Association's removal of homosexuality as a mental disorder is in 1973. In 1978 was when the pride flag made its first appearance, Gilbert Baker's creation. 1993 was when Clinton brought out the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and he was allowing homosexuals to come into the military, because that's another part of destroying a culture, is you've got to make it weak. During Obama's presidency, that he then took off the discrimination of sexual orientation and gender identity. And then in 2020, it really came apart, where a lot of high-ranking military officials in the American military are transgender. And of course, since then, we're seeing lots and lots and lots of different reforms and acts, legislations that maybe not sounding directly towards the LGBTQ plus community, but once you start hate speech laws and online harm laws, you're knowing that they're starting to protect a demographic, and you can be sure it won't be a conservative demographic. So what's the end game? Well, the end game is, as I've already suggested to you, the United Nations, which is the shop front for the Vatican, for the papacy. It's the Trojan horse. They are desperate to take off their thin Christian veil and for Roman Catholicism to say, ta-da! Mithraism's back on the table, boys, as being the one world religion. It's very debauched, and you can see a lot of sun-worshipping religions, which is what ancient mystery religion is, a sun-worshipping religions, even alive today, still performing today, that have temple prostitutes, because you have the holy sex. That's all involved in there. This is all to do, means to an end, to bring us to the ancient mystery religion, one world government. Feminism, left dead in the dust, was just another means to an end. So that's their end game, ancient mystery religion. So, of course, whenever you start getting legislations and acts and it's becoming the way, you've got to look at reparations. And, of course, that's seen there too in Greenwich Village. In 2016, there was a national monument was established on the site. And there was the 50th anniversary of Stonewall riots or uprising on the 5th of June 2019. 5 million people were there to commemorate that. And of course we had to have something official happen from the police. Remember, the word police comes from the word policy. Police aren't there to look after us. They're policy keepers for the government. So New York City Police Commissioner James P. O'Neill gave a formal apology to the alphabet community. Now, because ancient mystery religion is looking to find its core seat back, we know there will be symbols involved, because ancient mystery religion was at its ancient height during Nimrod, the tyrant Nimrod, who was a one world tyrant, and he had a one world religion, ancient mystery religion, sun worship. And he was the guy that decided to build the tower, what is known now as the Tower of Babel, because he knew God would maybe not flood the world again, because that rainbow that they'd stolen was God's promise that he would never flood the world again. But Nimrod and his ilk, his priests of ancient mystery religion, knew that God would do something, because they were building their one world culture again, and it was becoming debauched like it was before the days of Noah. So symbols are really up there in anything to do with the elite and ancient mystery religion today. 1978, as I said, the rainbow flag. Now, it started off with 6 colours originally, and I could quickly whiz through those original colours. There's more have been added, but there's 2 colours I want you to take particular attention to today. Hold that Stonewall in your mind, because we haven't finished with that yet, but I need 2 of those rainbow colours to be popped into our thinking this today. So that what I need to finish on makes more sense to you. All choreographed, all planned. So red in the LGBTQ plus pride flag stands for life, apparently. The orange is symbolic for healing. Yellow is for sunshine. Green is for nature. Blue represents harmony. Now, this is what I want you to remember. Purple is spirit. So remember that they consider the spiritual side of things. They're important in their flag. And they've also got another colour, which is hot pink, and that's to represent the sex, because, you know, it's just so focused on sex. You can see that at their parades, that they're barely wearing anything, and stupid mothers and fathers are taking their tiny tots along. Purple is the one that I particularly want you to remember, and this one, turquoise, which represents magic. Now, that's important. We've got spirit and we've got magic. Keep the sexual one there, that hot pink one, that's fine, but the spirit and the magic is going to be really important to this talk this morning. Now, they also, as the left always do, or at least the elite, funding, crazy millions of dollars gets funded into all this, by the way. Don't think this happens by accident and they do little fundraising on the side. Open Society, foundations, George Soros, the Klaus Schwabs of this world, Bill Gates, they put in crazy amounts of money, and not only into all this pride, which, by the way, comes from the Tower of Babel. No accident having that word pride there either, because it was their proudness, their pride back there in Nimrod's day, that they were going to build a tower that would reach to the heavens, and they would be like the great high God. So pride was there. Once you get pride, then you get rebellion. So this is what we're seeing in the pride community, rebellion, because they're coming for our children. They don't want you to live your life. They're going to rebel against everything you hold sacred, and they will come with their own agenda. So once you get that, then of course you get insecurities. That was the next thing that happened back in the Tower of Babel, and we've seen all those insecurities in the alphabet community now, because why would they be blatantly coming out so covertly with their culture and their sexuality and their agenda and song and chant if they didn't have big insecurities? A secure person doesn't need to parade. A secure person just gets on in the naturalness of life. They're trying to rewrite the West's history, and so they've come together with Black Lives Matter. Until it suits them, then that will all break up as well. Okay, so this is where I want Stonewall, the spiritual, the sexual, we can put that in there, but also the magic all comes in. And we're going to go back to, we're going back 4 millennia, back to 2000 BC. And we're going to be looking at the Epic of Gilgamesh. Some of us will know Gilgamesh. They were tablets or part tablets that were discovered, and this Gilgamesh is believed to be a real person. He's believed to be the king of Uruk, and he is in Sumeria, and he was 2nd millennia BC, about 2900 to 2350 BC, around that stage. It was written in Akkadian. Now, it's his epic. It's a poem, or it's a bit like, maybe the Odyssey or the Greek Odysseys, where big epics, where quests were engaged in. And Gilgamesh was like this. During his big epic and meeting demons in the underworld and all sorts of things as he was venturing, he bumped into a goddess called Inanna. Now, Inanna, another name for Inanna was Ishtar. So for this story, I'm going to stay with her name of Ishtar. So Ishtar comes across Gilgamesh and decides that she's going to take Gilgamesh as her lover, because ancient mystery religion and the gods and goddess are all about sex. We just, this animal behavior, just sexual intercourse, and we might catch up with each other's name afterwards. So, but Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk, he knew about the exploits of Ishtar, and she was a little bit like the Black Widow spider. She would have sexual union and debauchery with her lovers, and she then would destroy her lovers. So Gilgamesh was too wise and informed for that, and he decided not in this lifetime. Well, that didn't go very well with the goddess of beauty, the queen of heaven, as she was known. And you'll read about that in the Old Testament of the Bible. Again, the queen of heaven connects with esoteric Roman Catholicism, because in the 1950s, the Pope ordained Mary, the mother of Jesus, with being the queen of heaven, because esoterically, the insiders in the Vatican, not the average Roman Catholic who loves Jesus, the insiders do not worship Jesus and the son of Mary. They worship Tammuz, the son of Ishtar. Ishtar was the queen of heaven. So with their very thin veil over their esoteric Mithraism, being Mary and Jesus, but really it's Ishtar and Tammuz. They've called Mary Queen of Heaven because back in the 1950s, they were moving us towards this one world religion already. All ancient mystery religions have Madonna and Child. Christianity does not. Anyway, he would not be Ishtar's consort, so Ishtar was furious, and in revenge she went to her father, the god Anu, and we learn about him as well. I go into a lot of this in my book We Are Revolting, so that you can understand how all this connects. It actually it's a very tangled mess, but if you just keep it nice and tight and simple, it makes a lot more sense. So, and she demanded the ball of heaven, and she sent it to attack Gilgamesh. Now, Gilgamesh had his friend in Kidu, and they killed the bull. Well, that didn't go down very well with Ishtar. And so she stood up on the walls of Uruk, and these walls started to become known as of that time as Stonewall. Okay, so we're starting to get this connection now, aren't we? So now you'll understand when I say a gay pub called Stonewall Inn didn't come out of thin air. That was a planned name, getting this ready for a planned riot to start off a planned change of course in the culture of the West. So she's standing on these walls and she is venting her anger. She is sending down curses because she does that. You don't offend the gods. In ancient mystery religion, there were always babies sacrificed or virgins sacrificed. You had to appease the gods because not only was she the goddess of sex and love and beauty, the queen of heaven, but she was also the goddess of war. Keep the populace in fear. Hitler knew that little trick, and he was an adherent to ancient mystery religion as well. So Ishtar unleashed her fury, her anguish, and her hate for Gilgamesh to absolutely destroy him. It was actually in the kingdom or in the city of Uruk that she primarily had her temple. It was like the cult center at that time. And if you think of city walls being the protection for those that are within, in the old days, that's your protection. You had city walls. People that lived outside the city, if the enemy was coming, there would be a bugle sound, the watchman on the wall would sound, and those people that were tending their flocks and living outside that city wall would rush into the city wall. The doors were closed, and those walls would protect the people, and it's the people that hold the culture. So for Ishtar to stand on those city walls, and she disrupted the city walls, the whole myth has to do with her having a brick and throwing it at those city walls and causing a rupture in the city walls. And that's what the riots did in 1969 on the 28th of June in New York around the Stonewall Inn, because the elites knew, the Jesuits that ran the whole hippie movement and the destruction of their family in the 1960s, they knew exactly what they were doing. They knew they would have to destroy the walls of our culture to break into our culture and destroy the people. So they saw that story of Ishtar as being a metaphor for what they need to do right now to the West to have our Christian-based culture destroyed. The brick is a very important part of the symbolism of the Pride movement. The other thing too, for Ishtar was the lion. The Bible tells us that the devil goes around like a roaring lion, seeing who he can devour. I would imagine a lot of pride people just want to get on with life like we do. So it's a top-down, choreographed situation that we're seeing play out with bricks and colours and symbols and Stonewall right there in the middle of it. Now, the other thing with Ishtar is she was known as Morning Inanna, because Inanna was her Sumerian name as well. It was changed to Ishtar. She was also known as Evening Inanna and Princely Inanna, but mainly the morning and the evening. Inanna, or Ishtar, is Venus. Venus, if you know Botticelli's work, that beautiful painting, The Birth of Venus, that is the birth of Satan. Venus, when you look at ancient mystery religion writings and documents, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, Manly Hall, Alice Bailey, Albert Pike, they're very clear. Venus is Satan, and Satan is their god. This isn't my anecdotal take. This is on their writings. So it all connects with the Venus as being Satan. And this is where the spiritual side of what we're seeing enacting out today, it doesn't make sense. There's something weird happening there. There is a spiritual side to it. And you remember the other word that I wanted you to remember, turquoise, for magic? That is what we're seeing here. We're seeing occult magic, Luciferian rituals outplaying today. And this is black magic. This is all into the forefront. Because as in Stonewall, anecdotally there was a brick thrown. No one can prove that. But that has stuck with the myth or the story that's been built up around that. That was planned. Don't think that brick just was popped in. There is a spiritual battle going on in the world today, and the sooner we realize it, the sooner we will equip ourselves to fight back. So Ishtar, she stands on the walls there on Stonewall and Uruk, and she says, "Woe unto Gilgamesh who slandered me." And that's what the pride, core pride message is. Woe unto you Christians who slander us, or you conservators who slander us. They're bringing destruction. They're into our schools. They're into our media, into music. They're taking every opportunity. And it is the Vatican, the Pope, who says they own media. That the ownership of media is the birthright for the papacy. They've made that very clear in their writings. So Ishtar was very toxic. She was very unstable, very deadly in her dealings. And we're seeing a lot of toxicity in the pride movement and the instability in a lot of decision making within that. In the epic and the poems of Gilgamesh, we read that Ishtar said, Stonewall is a stone that buckles out the stone wall. That whole episode of standing on the stone and sending down destruction is an image of the stone that buckles out the stone wall, buckles out the protection for the society, just like they're doing today, placing down a new religious base. The ancients knew the word Stonewall, and it was connected integrally to the goddess of sexuality, the goddess of taverns. This is Ishtar, of prostitutes, of transvestitism. Way back then, yes. Transsexuality, yes, right back then. Homosexuality and the crossing of genders, because it was the magic of the gods that could literally change a girl into a boy and a boy into a girl. They could literally do it. And if you know of anything about different cults and witchcraft, there is much paranormal activity that can literally turn, rabbits into cats or cats into rabbits. We don't know the half of the world of Satan that works around us. Today we're seeing boys turned into girls, girls turned into boys, not through the wave of a wand, but we are seeing it happen in a slightly different form, and I will get to explain that in a second. But first I want to quote a passage from a book that was published 2022 called The Return of the Gods, little g. The author's name is Jonathan Cahn, and this brings all the Stonewall phenomena of ancient mystery religion and magical way it's been rolled out today. It was the most fitting names and places, for at Stonewall, Uruk, at Stonewall, the goddess would cause another wall, a wall of ancient Orions, the moral hedge that served Western civilization for nearly 2,000 years to likewise buckle and collapse. So just like Uruk, ancient Stonewall, the Stonewall Inn, the gay inn of 1969, the same moral hedge collapsed. June 26, 2013, on what exact date did the ruling come? The Defence of Marriage Act was overturned on June the 26th, 2013, 10 years to the exact day the Supreme Court legalized homosexuality in 2003. Both of rulings opening the door to the normalization and the establishment of homosexuality fell on the same date, and both on the date that sealed Stonewall, the event that began the opening of that door, June the 26th, 2015, when exactly marriage as a covenant of man and woman was struck down on June the 26th, 2015, the same exact date that the Defence of Marriage Act was overturned in 2013, the same exact date that the homosexuality was legalized in 2003, and the same exact date that Stonewall was sealed in 1969. Then the date that sealed Stonewall was itself the same date on the ancient calendar appointed for the casting of the spell to cause man to love a man. So it all connects back. Ishtar had the power to physically transform. It was an act of magic. It was a work of the sorcerers, the priests, the ancient mystery priests. This is still going to move forward to AI. We're going to transition to AI. But the main thing that they want for we the people is not to have babies. So man with man sex, girl with girl sex, transgender equals no babies. Where do we see that witchcraft today? We don't see the temples where ancient mystery priests can come and do their hocus pocus. So where are we seeing all this magic today? Uncle Bill Gates, of course, who's got his fingers in pharmaceutical industry. And when you look at the word pharma or pharmaceutical, that comes from the Greek word magic, and it's the Greek ancient mystery religion gods that is ancient mystery religion. It is sun worship. So let's have a look at the word pharma. Pharmakon is Greek, means drug, poison, charm, to charm, it's a spell, it means spell, enchantment, they're all the same. And that's the use in administration of drugs, pharmakon. We have another one, pharmakeia, Greek as well, preparer of drugs, poisoner, sorcerer. So this is where we'll find our sorcerers. This is where we find our magic. It won't be in the temples, be in the pharmacies around the West. Pharmakeia, also Greek, It's the use of drugs, medicines, poisons, or spells, poisoning, witchcraft, remedy, cure. Because what the last 500 years with the Jesuit order, their primary goal was to destroy Protestant Christianity. That's why they were created, the Counter-Reformation. And they want a remedy for that. They want everyone back to Catholicism so they can take off the Christian veil and go straight back to ancient mystery religion. They're looking for the cure. So pharmacy is all about magic. Ishtar, this is another significant thing about Ishtar, is that she often portrayed as a young woman. And it was all about being young. And you'll notice that's who they're targeting today, the young. Every ism targets the young. Communism, Nazism, any ism, veganism, targets the young and often targets women proportionately to males. Any isms target the young. So did Ishtar. She spoke about becoming an exuberant young man or a noble young man. These are the words of ancient Ishtar. So the young are targeted. And you can understand that, of course, because the young are more impressionable and they're still formulating their ideas and are still kind of working out who they are. But remember, the young are going to be the light holders of culture for tomorrow. There's a lady, you may know her, Camille Paglia. She's a lesbian. She's a professor of humanities and media studies at the University of Arts in Philadelphia, in America, which is interesting because Philadelphia means brotherly love, but that's just by the by. But she's a liberal, she's a lesbian, she's very outspoken, but she is, I have respect for her because she's understanding that we are end at culture. She's understanding that these transsexual surgeries are the latest fad. She said the 50s were the beatniks, the 60s were the hippies, and today it's transsexual. I agree with her. She says that paganism just went underground. It didn't get wiped out with Christianity. She also believes that biology is fixed. She anchors her beliefs on biology and anchors her belief on that we are connected with nature. I mean, everything is, but women are connected with nature. She also says, that this transgender, this pride movement's looking for the perfect state, which they will never find because they're moving more and more away from the perfect state, which is that just naturalness of the way we live. So she's calling for women to really keep plugged into nature. Don't destroy who you are. Don't destroy your bodily makeup, because that is the elite's top-down driven agenda to have you destroyed. They don't want you in love with your body. And of course, Pope Francis always jumps in because he is driving this whole mission. Well, the Black Pope behind him is driving this whole mission to ancient mystery religion. And wherever the elites are pushing and hurting us, you can be sure that Pope Francis will be jumping on, whipping the whole narrative along, and he does. He says, this is Pope Francis, quote, God loves all his children just as they are, which is true, but, twist, herd, and calling on Catholic bishops to support the laws to welcome LGBTQ plus people into the church, because they need them in ancient mystery religion churches, and that's what Catholic cathedrals and churches are. They've just got that thin veil over them. So of course he wants all his priests and his sorcerers back there, his sexual, holy sexual prostitutes back there. Of course he's going to say these things. He goes on, we're all children of God, and God loves us as we are, for the strength that each of us fights for our dignity. We don't need to fight for our dignity. We just stand in our dignity. Our dignity comes as we act in a dignified way. No one gives us dignity. No one takes our dignity away. That's inherently ours from Father God, not from the Pope. We're being herded. Nothing happens by accident. No such thing as a clinic to change one's sex 10 years ago. But the good news is that there is a new conservative age on the rise. We may be quiet, but we are the majority, and we are pushing back, and we need to push back louder, but we are winning. So take courage, stand up, join the throng that are pushing back. The Barbie movie with the transgender Barbie was a total flop. Many woke movies coming out of Hollywood are canned, losing billions before they even get off the ground. We saw what Bud Light have destroyed themselves using that transgender Dylan creep. There is, in many regards, a job already done on our youth. We need to continue to be the standard so that we will be a light for them to turn and come back to, because when it all goes horribly wrong for them, we need to be there as mums and dads. We don't want them committing suicide. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Bless you now.